The studio lights blazed as Prince Harry took his seat across from Bill Maher on real time. The audience buzzed with anticipation. This was no ordinary celebrity guest. Harry, dressed casually in a navy blazer and an open-collar white shirt, wore his usual disarming grin, but the tightness in his jaw betrayed a readiness to defend his views. This was a prince who had long since traded palace halls for public podcasts, royal protocol for raw honesty. Tonight, though, he was stepping into a different kind of arena. Maher, sharp-tongued and grinning, leaned forward in his chair. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Duke of Sussex himself, Prince Harry. Or can I just call you Harry? We did fight a war to stop calling people, Your Highness, after all." Harry chuckled politely, nodding. "Harry is fine, Bill. I think we've all moved on from the powdered wigs." The audience laughed, but the opening jab set the tone. Maher was here to poke, prod, and press, and Harry knew it. The first few minutes flowed smoothly. They covered Harry's recent philanthropic projects, his work with mental health charities, and a few lighthearted anecdotes about life in California. Maher complimented his candor, calling him refreshingly unfiltered for someone raised in a gold cage. But the mood shifted as the conversation drifted toward issues of privilege, public criticism, and personal responsibility. "So let's talk about this for real," Maher said, setting down his note cards and staring directly at Harry. "You've left the royal family. You've said the institution was toxic. But isn't it a little ironic that you're now in the US, making millions from media deals while preaching about trauma and inequality? I mean, you grew up in palaces. You're not exactly a coal miner." The audience laughed uncomfortably, sensing the tension now thick in the air. Harry's expression tightened. "Bill, I understand the optics. I do. I'm not claiming I lived a life of poverty. But privilege doesn't protect you from pain. It doesn't shield you from loss or grief, especially when your life is constantly under a microscope. I've spent years trying to turn my experience into something helpful." Maher raised an eyebrow. "But don't you think that's part of the problem? Everyone wants to monetize their trauma now. You've got podcasts, documentaries, book deals. You say you want privacy, but then you publish a memoir called Spare. Doesn't that seem a bit contradictory?" A few murmurs rippled through the audience. Harry leaned forward, his voice calm but firmer now. "There's a difference between seeking privacy and seeking control over your own narrative. My life was written for me by tabloids from the day I was born. I didn't ask for that. What I'm doing now isn't about hiding, it's about telling the truth." Maher smirked. "Fair. But don't you think there's a fine line between truth and cashing in on your royal past? I mean, you're not exactly distancing yourself from it." Harry didn't smile this time. "You're right, there is a line. And I've spent a long time walking it. But let's be honest, if I didn't talk about my past, you wouldn't have invited me on this show. People want the prince and the man. I'm trying to offer both." The audience applauded, a smattering of support rising in the room. But Maher wasn't ready to let it go. "Okay, but let me ask you this, and I mean this with respect. Do you ever feel like you're just another celebrity now, lecturing people who have it way harder than you ever will?" Harry's face flushed slightly. He paused, perhaps weighing the costs of his reply. "Bill, I think it's dangerous to assume that empathy is tied to economic status. I'm not lecturing, I'm sharing. If that helps even one person feel less alone, then I think it's worth it." Maher leaned back, crossing his arms, clearly unconvinced. "I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. But if you ever get tired of the sharing economy, there's always Buckingham Palace. I hear they have an opening now." That drew a few more laughs, but it was clear the exchange had crossed from playful to pointed. Harry forced a smile, but his eyes were colder now. The warmth had drained from the conversation. Both men were still seated, but the line between interview and interrogation had already been crossed. And things were just beginning to unravel. The moment the segment returned from commercial break, the shift in energy was undeniable. Prince Harry sat stiffer in his chair, his shoulders squared. Bill Maher, ever the provocateur, leaned in with the same sardonic smile, as if daring the Duke to take the bait again. "So," Maher said, his tone deceptively light, "let's talk about Meghan." A soft groan slipped through the audience like wind through a crack in the wall. Harry's jaw clenched. "Let's not make her the subject of your punchlines." Maher chuckled. Relax, I'm not going full Piers Morgan on you. I'm just wondering, do you think being married to Meghan helped open your eyes to injustice, or did it just make you more upset that the British press turned on you too? Harry blinked. For a brief moment, he looked like he might walk off right then. Instead, he inhaled slowly and answered, "My wife didn't make me see the truth. She helped me stop ignoring it. There's a difference. She didn't change me, she challenged me. That's what a good partner does." Maher waved a hand. Sure, but come on. You were in the military. You served in Afghanistan. And now you're out here doing Oprah interviews about family trauma like you're the royal drive. Phil, don't you think the public is a bit exhausted by it? Harry frowned. You say I'm being too open, but for decades I was expected to say nothing. Be silent, smile, shake hands. And when I finally speak, people like you tell me I should go back to hiding. You can't have it both ways. The audience clapped again, louder this time, but Maher pressed on, visibly irked that he was losing the crowd. No one's saying hide, I'm just saying, you're on a show every other month talking about trauma like you invented it. You talk about mental health, yet you seem obsessed with blaming everyone, your family, the media, even the system you were born into. When do you take responsibility for your own life? Now it was Harry's turn to lean forward. You're right. I am responsible for my life. That's why I left. That's why I cut ties with an institution that preferred image over integrity. I walked away from everything, titles, money, duty, so I could be free. So I could raise my kids without them being trapped in the same cycle. Isn't that responsibility? Maher gave a theatrical shrug. Sounds more like a Netflix special pitch than a noble sacrifice. A gasp cut through the studio. Harry blinked twice, then stood up. Not in a burst of anger, just something quieter, steadier. Controlled. I came here to have a conversation, he said. But this isn't conversation. It's entertainment dressed as cynicism. He gestured toward Maher, then the cameras. You don't want answers. You want sound bites. You want your gotcha moment so you can trend for a day. Maher looked amused, arms crossed. Come on, man, you can't take a little heat. Harry stared at him. There's a difference between heat and mockery. Between challenging someone and trying to humiliate them. You talk about free speech, but what you really mean is your freedom to sneer at anything sincere. The room fell completely silent. Even the crew behind the cameras stopped moving. And then it happened. The producer's voice crackled faintly through Maher's earpiece, barely audible, but the words were clear. We're pulling the segment. Maher turned, confused. Wait, what? We've got another 5 minutes. No, the voice said. We're done. The screen behind them flickered to a blank slate. A stage manager gestured discreetly for Harry to exit left. He did, without another word, walking past the cameras and off the stage. Maher sat in stunned silence for a beat too long before awkwardly facing the camera. Well, folks, that was interesting. Apparently we just lost a prince. I guess free speech only goes one way these days. The audience didn't laugh. 1 or 2 people clapped, out of confusion more than agreement. Backstage, Harry was already unhooking his mic. One of the younger assistants, eyes wide, muttered, I've never seen that happen before. Harry gave a half smile. Me neither. He didn't wait for a car or a handler. He just stepped out into the evening, coat folded over his arm, his breath visible in the cool air. The world would have its headlines in the morning. Prince walks off Maher's show, but for once, he didn't care. Sometimes silence spoke louder than anything. And tonight, it had said everything. Let me know if you'd like a follow-up story, maybe about the media fallout or Meghan's response.